On this episode of the DTVC podcast, Jeanette Ward from Mundane Adventures of a Fangirl is back, and we are looking at Kickboxer 2. So stay tuned for that. And you may remember, I did Kickboxer 2 as part of the DTVC Extra a couple years back. And what I decided with those DTV ones, so it was like the Kickboxer series, the Blood Fist movies. I can't remember if there were any others that I did that were DTV, but I decided for those ones, if I hadn't covered them already on the podcast, that I'm going to cover them. So, expect to see some more of those movies get mixed in, some of the Blood Fist, more of the Kickboxers, that kind of thing. But in just a little bit, Jeanette Ward will be on. We're going to talk about Kickboxer 2. Then next week, I think next week is going to be John Cross's return on the show. We're going to do a more erotic thrillers. We're going to be looking at two from Gregory Dark. So it's not anything from the Between the Cheeks series. We're looking at Body of Influence and what was the other one? Like Stranger Desires or Stranger something. Stranger by Night. That's what it's, Stranger by Night. If you don't write these erotic thriller names down and have them right available, I was looking up Gregory Dark on IMDb. I was going to scroll back and forth, but it just happened that Body of Influence and Stranger by Night are far enough apart in his filmography that they don't appear on the same line. You have to page. But those erotic thrillers, it really is just sort of like a series of words that they just sort of mix and match to make the titles, and it can be hard to keep up with them. But those are the two, Body of Influence and Strange by Night. So either that one's coming next week, or Sean Malloy from I Must Break This Podcast. He's going to be on. We're going to be looking at Assassin Game, the one that the Van Damme movie that had Scott Adkins in it as well. So one of those two is coming next week. The other one will coming the week after. So keep an eye out for those as well. DTVC Extra. We were back last week. I looked at the first 3 Indiana Jones movies. So if you remember, last week I was on the Bulletproof podcast to talk about Last Crusade, and that was sort of an impetus to watch all the Indiana Jones movies. So I started to do some DTVC Extra. I was originally planning to just put all 5 of them in one episode, but I went almost 2 hours talking about the first 3 movies, so I figured, okay, there's enough for 2 episodes there. Now, when I get to part 2, I was thinking maybe next month when I do the episode with Ty, so the May episode with Ty, so maybe that's when it'll come, which will be like 3rd week of May. That might be when it comes, but we'll see. Something in that range there. You can look for that then as well. And then kind of, YouTube channel, I'm still talking about trying to get, I was planning the Seagal movie in this month, and it's already the end of April, and I didn't make it happen. So hopefully soon on that, I'll be able to get that one up for everyone. And then, then on the site, of course, we finished off the month of April with Intimate Stranger. I think it was the other reason why I was having trouble with Stranger by Night, or whatever that one was called, because I had Intimate Stranger that I watched. Stranger by Night, that's what it's called. I did Intimate Stranger with Debbie Harry on the site. So it's like all these strangers and intimates and nights and all these things. But that was a fun movie. I hadn't watched it in forever. I watched it when I was really young, like when it first came out. I was like maybe 12. My friend had a scrambler box. He had all of the cable channels, and Intimate Stranger, we watched that on Showtime. I probably should not have been watching that as a 12-year-old, watching that on Showtime. That was it was definitely a hard rated R. It was an NC-17 kind of rated R that a 12-year-old probably has no business watching. But anyway, watching it now as a 47-year-old, I definitely had a great time with it. You should definitely check it out while you still get a chance on Tubi. And then this week we're going to do our PM film for the month of May. We're going to be looking at The Last Rider. So it's got Eric Estrada. It's got William Smith, also I believe Cole S. McKay was action director, and Red Horton has a small part as one of the bikers. Mimi Lesios has a small part at the very beginning as well, so we get some more Mimi Lesios up. So look for that one this weekend. We'll be looking at The Last Rider. And then I think the week after that, probably going to do one of Gary Daniels' Christian movies, because it's his birthday week. He's going to be, his birthday's on the 9th, I believe, of May. Get something, got to get another review up for him. But Gary Daniels, I mean, this will be 61 movies for him on the site, which puts him second all time among actors after Dolph, right? Dolph has over 70 movies. Cole S. McKay has over 60, but obviously he's doing he does all stunt work. He has some acting roles, but for the most part he's doing stunt work. But for someone who's like primarily an actor, Daniels has the second most all time. People don't realize that he has so many movies, but we've kind of exhausted them at this point, and now it's just sort of scraping the bottom of the barrel for these. He has 2 other Christian movies we haven't done. Another one that I think is like a quasi-Christian movie. Another one with Stranger in the title too. I think it's like Stranger in Paradise or something like that. That's available as well. So we'll get one of those in, and Yeah, I mean, at some point, I guess we'll do the other Christian ones as well, and then that'll be it for Gary Daniels until he starts making more stuff. But yeah, so look for that one in a couple weeks' time as we celebrate what would be, I think, maybe his 63rd birthday, something like that. So he's similar to Dolph. He has almost as many credits. Dolph has more credits than his age. Gary Daniels is close. He's the only other person that's close like that. So yeah, it's a trivia question people don't usually get about the DTVC. Yeah, you can easily guess that Dolph has the most, but then people think about who's got second most. They think maybe like Eric Roberts, who isn't even close. I think we have 12 movies of his up or something like that. But it's Gary Daniels. But anyway, so look for that one in 2 weeks' time. Yeah, and then me being on other people's podcasts. So John from After Movie Diner, he posted the episode that he and I recorded last year, the movie Becky and Wrath of Becky. So check that out on the After Movie Diner. So it's not the PM Entertainment feed, it's the After Movie Diner feed. But yeah, that was a really fun episode that I did with him. It was, like I said, it was a while back. But those movies were a lot of fun to watch. I'll probably review those at some point as well. But check that out. All 90s Action All the Time. I was on there to talk about the Albert Pyun film, Adrenaline, Fear the Rust. So, getting back to Albert Pyun, right? Albert Pyun directed the movie we're going to be talking about tonight here, Kickboxer 2. But I was on All 90s Action All the Time to talk Pyun with Scott Murphy there. So we know Scott from our podcast, right? He's always coming on to talk Seagal with us here. But I returned the favor, and I was on All 90s Action All the Time. So check that out as well. And then I also recorded for the Lambcast just this past weekend, refreshing remakes. So you can check that or keep an eye out for that one, that Lambcast episode. I'm going to be doing a couple more of those this month if everything works out, month of May. So look for those. I'll keep you posted when I'll be on there as well. But yes, refreshing remakes. So I came in with 3 remakes and then like kind of one sort of quasi remake. And then I had I had to come up with a movie that I want to see remake, and I drew a blank on I had the name of the movie. I was getting ready to say it when it was my turn to speak, and I completely drew a blank for a second, had to pull it from memory, which, as you probably know from hearing me do this podcast, I'm always forgetting things. So that's the Lambcast. Check me out on there. That episode should be up soon as well. And then of course I just mentioned about the Bulletproof podcast. So I was on last week. This week they're actually looking at Automatic with Olivier Gruner. So that's another person who was kind of looked at as a new Van Damme, right? Sasha Mitchell was kind of seen as that. Gruner, Bernhardt. So yeah, check them out on the Bulletproof podcast. This week they did Automatic, but last week I was on to talk about Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Yeah, so I mean, this is probably as good a time as any to wrap up the cold open and have John play in our theme song, and then Jeanette and I will chat about Kickboxer 2. But before we do that, of course, my newest novel, Mark in Sales, that is available on Kindle Unlimited, and in paperback. You can check that out. Definitely pause the podcast, follow the link in the podcast description, and buy a copy of that, and then resume, and you can listen to Jeanette and I talk about Kickboxer 2. So why don't we have John play our theme song, and then when we come back, we'll be looking at Kickboxer 2. Hey everyone, welcome back to the DTVC podcast. As always, this is Matt here, and I'm joined once again by a very special guest. We've got Jeanette Ward from Mundane Adventures of a Fangirl. Welcome back, Jeanette.
Hi, so happy to be here.
Yes, and we've got when you were on the first time back when we did Bridge of Dragons, you mentioned that you enjoy these sort of these martial arts movies where a character has to sort of overcome an obstacle, sort of train their way through it, and then can kind of overcome it at the end. And I was looking through movies that I wanted to discuss recently, and Kickboxer 2 kind of felt like it was a good, maybe a good or bad or both example of this. I don't know.
It is an example of that trope.
Yes.
It executes it very well it's missing a couple of the key pieces. Like if I had to list the movies in this very specific subgenre
Right.
of the late 80s, early 90s action, martial arts action movies, I feel like this one's missing maybe one or two, but the rest of them, I'm not going to say it executes them very well, but it executes them.
Right. It's interesting because I feel like in the modern world today, where everything goes so fast, where like people want like kind of more instant gratification. I think before, it's like these movies were almost like the start of that kind of thing, where it was like I don't know if maybe before. Because I wouldn't really remember so much before, but it felt like there was almost like the journey of getting somewhere was also important. Like like learning to play guitar or learning martial arts or something like that. Like the journey was important. And then with these movies, you can't do the whole journey, right? Because you've only
Yeah.
got 90 minutes, so you got to use that montage to get somebody from one place to
Yeah.
another really quickly.
Your hero has to become an expert in half of the 90-minute runtime, and
Right.
we have to believe it. Whether or not we do depends on how well a movie executes that trope.
Yeah, and I think with these movies, these martial art ones, like for example, Sasha Mitchell here, he starts off with a base level of skill. Like he's been training probably for most of his life. So I guess that's the other part of it too, right? It's not like Sasha Mitchell just suddenly he meets Dennis Chan and Dennis Chan teaches him from scratch, how to do martial arts. But it's still like very quick when he learns it.
But it's so interesting. Oh my God, I'm not even sure where we need to start with this
Right.
movie in particular. But first, yes, this genre, and there's so many. And if we talk about movies that do this particular layout
Right.
well, I think about like Only the Strong. I think is
Yes.
a really good example with Mark Dacascos. And there's a couple others, right, where it's like, okay, we're introduced to a character who has some skill, or we are, as the audience, led to believe they have some skill. Something happens. There's some sort of trauma, attack, incident in which the hero, their friend, their partner, their person they've known, family member, gets involved in an incident with some villain, and then the hero has to go on a journey to get better at their described skill in order to challenge the villain and get either redemption or justice or retribution or something. That is kind of how it goes with these particular movies. You're introduced to the character's got a buddy gets hurt, character has to get better, character then gets justice. Um, Along the way, the ones that I love the most, and I think Showdown in Little Tokyo is the best example of all the particular set pieces that these movies need. The training montage, absolutely. Typically, in the training montage, there's a bar fight. I was shocked to be reminded that Kickboxer 2 contains 0 bar fights. I was a little surprised by that. There's no real opportunity. Well, let me take that back. The point of the bar fight in these movies is to prove the skill of the lead character. Here's his skill demonstrated in a casual setting so that you can buy how good he is. If you think about the original Best of the Best, which is quality movie, that bar fight serves to, yes, show their skill, but also gel them as a team. So that one is very key to the plot. This movie, just you're supposed to like, yeah, okay, he's good, we get it. But there's no bar fight. There's him training in a park and leading a bunch of what seems to be homeless people in Tai Chi. And then there's a bunch of scenes with kids, and we can get into that. But my goodness, these movies do not need children. I cannot say that enough. These movies don't need kids.
Right.
All right.
Well, and I think of all the movies to not need kids, one directed by Albert Pyun, who I'm a fan of his work. And he and I have corresponded. I've mentioned about other movies of his that he's done. I've never really talked about. I never got a chance to talk with him about this one, but of all the directors that you don't want kids in the movie, I think it's someone who goes as dark as Albert Pyun does.
Yeah. Yeah. And this movie. Wait, before we get to this movie, are there any other movies for you that pop into your mind if we talk about the layout of like character, trauma, training, victory? What other movies pop to your mind as like, yes, this is a perfect example of this?
I think the first Blood Fist movie with Don the Dragon Wilson,
Mm-hmm.
where
Mm-hmm.
he goes abroad to fight in this tournament, and and I think somebody close to him is killed, similar kind of what you're talking about, and he's got to kind of find revenge when he's out there, and it's like he's training. He meets. I think he falls in love with his buddy's girlfriend, or his buddy's sister. But it's kind of a similar thing. But like Don the Dragon Wilson has like kind of this aw shucks demeanor to his character, where you're like, okay, yeah, I can see him kind of getting better at this, and I want to see him win.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's a good one. The Shoot Fighter, that's another
Yes.
one that has that vibe too. Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first version of this, the first Kickboxer, they do have the bar fight, right? Dennis Chan
Yes.
takes him to the bar, gets him drunk first, and
Yeah.
then six the bar patrons on him.
Yeah.
And to your point, it works perfectly because he's got that iconic dance scene before it. And then he's
Can
like,
I tell you? Do you know how many times I had to write in my notes, and it's at least 3, possibly 4. Kickboxer is not Bloodsport.
right.
I had to keep reminding myself. For the longest time, I just remembered the dance sequence being in Bloodsport. No,
Right.
it's in Kickboxer. The movies are nearly identical.
Yes.
Nearly identical, and I had forgotten how similar they were because I think I had simply forgotten Kickboxer and merged all of Kickboxer into Bloodsport in my head. Like when starting rewatching Kickboxer 2, and Michelle Kesey come in. Oh my God, there's so much to discuss with Michelle Kesey.
Yes.
But when they're like, "Oh yeah, Tong Po," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, Michelle Kesey, of course." And then I'm like, "Wait a minute, Bolo Young was," and I'm like, "Wait a minute." Then I had to go back and, oh, these are 2 different movies. I'd forgotten. Wrote it down at least 3 times.
Yeah.
Kickboxer is not Bloodsport. Oh my goodness. When they're talking about his brothers getting killed off screen, oh my God. There's so much. Okay.
Yeah. Well, if you want, maybe we'll jump in. We'll do the first, I guess, we call it an act. I guess the first 30 minutes, because we were talking about this. The movie it's a 90-minute movie. Each half hour seems to have its own sort of rhythm feel to it. And yeah, in this first half hour, we learned that similar to, I guess, I was trying to think of what shows and movies did this. There was obviously the most recent Fast and Furious movie, right? Suddenly There's a Brother.
Yeah, Suddenly There's a Brother.
Right. Star
But
Trek.
I feel like they even do it better than this. This was before we. Oh my God, there's so much. Before we get to that, the idea of Sasha Mitchell being in this movie, I know that when I first saw this movie, I saw it because Sasha Mitchell was in it. So I had assumed he did this after being in Step by Step. But when I look at the dates, like Step by Step didn't start airing until 1991, and this is a 1991 movie. So he did this first, but maybe he was on, was it Dallas?
Yes.
He was on Dallas first. Because I had an awareness of him, was like, oh, this dude is hot. For me in 1991, that was mid-high school. I was like, yeah, this man.
Right.
Ooh. So I was like, yeah, Kickboxer, I'm going to see him in this. And then to realize he's in a whole bunch of the Kickboxer movies. There was, and we can talk about all the Sasha Mitchell interesting facts, air quotes,
Yes.
as we go on. This movie begins, yes, a lot of the exposition is done visually, in which as we pan around the Sloan family gym, we are introduced to the idea that this is one of the Sloan brothers that we were introduced to in the Kickboxer movie, which is not Bloodsport, in which Jean-Claude Van Damme is brothers with an American band.
Yeah.
And they go, the American brother, I forget, okay, the American one is Eric.
Yeah.
Jean-Claude is Kurt, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
The names are ridiculous. The one in this one is David. Eric and Kurt. Eric is great kickboxer. Oh boy, he's winning all this stuff. And then a critic is like, well, what about Thailand? They're supposed to be the best ones. They invented this. And he's like, well, then I'll go to Thailand and kick all their asses. Ha ha ha. Look at how great we are. The acting by Jean-Claude in the first, 5 to 10 minutes of the first Kickboxer is ludicrous and bigger than anything he's done since. But and also he, oh my God, there's so much. Jean-Claude like directed the action sequences and the fight sequences in the first Kickboxer. If you guys haven't seen it in a long time, please go back and at least watch the first 10 minutes. It's crazy. Um, so during the course of that movie, Eric's ego takes them both to Thailand, in which Kurt is acting as Eric's ring buddy. I forget the corner man. That's the phrase. They go up against Tong Po, Thai virtuoso of Muay Thai kickboxing, noted Thai kickboxing superstar Tong Po, played by Michelle Kesey. Michelle Kesey, noted Moroccan from Belgium. Not at all Taiwanese. Not at all from Thailand. Not at all any part Asian. Entirely Moroccan. Entirely from Morocco. Born and raised in Belgium. Why is that key? Because he and Jean-Claude Van Damme have been friends since, I don't know, high school or whatever, when they started training together and they went to LA together to become stars. So when Jean-Claude had a heavy hand in the production of the first Kickboxer, Michelle Kesey, noted Moroccan, gets cast as Thai kickboxing superstar Tong Po. Here's my question to you. And because Tong Po is in Kickboxer 2, I feel this is a viable question. As we're told in the beginning of Kickboxer 2, through the visuals of panning around the gym, both Kurt and Eric die off screen between the movies. So as to not have to have either of those actors in this movie. And David is now struggling with the gym. Can't make payments because he won't fight professionally. There's kids. Oh my God, so much. We'll get to that. First, let's talk about Michelle Kesey because I have so many questions. I'm wondering if you did more research than I did. That man is not Asian. Is he wearing Asian eye prosthetics, or is he just... I mean, how racist is this casting?
No, this is like, what is it, Dr. No, James Bond? Right?
Yes.
It's that level of thing. And, when they rebooted the Kickboxer movies and they had Batista playing Tong Po, they didn't do any of that. And
well, no, because he's at least Filipino.
Right. Well, that's a good point too. But he's
at least Filipino, which is so much closer than Moroccan.
Right, that's a good point.
Belgian Moroccan.
But I think too, it's like, is it that inconceivable that somebody from Belgium or Morocco could move to Thailand and
Not
train?
At all. You could absolutely just have it be like, oh, hey, listen, in the first Kickboxer, there's a full line of dialogue. Admittedly, it's one line. But there is a line of dialogue in which the American brother Eric says, boy, you sure had it easy with mom in Europe, in order to justify Jean-Claude's accent when these two people are supposed to be brothers.
Right.
Could have used a single line of dialogue. Boy, it was sure interesting when Tong Po came over here from Morocco to be a great Muay Thai superstar here in Thailand. All right, moving on.
Yes.
But no, let's do some super racist prosthetics on his eyes to fake that he's slightly Asian.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, like, in terms of like how they qualified doing it. If they said, well, he's of Moroccan descent, maybe that's not so bad. And it's like, no, I think it's always bad, right? Like, you just,
yeah, it's just, and because the idea of Muay Thai kickboxing being such a thing in the first movie, and in this one to some extent, to a great extent, it just, I don't, and of course it was a different time, but I knew that it was off-putting when I first saw it because I love the movie Lionheart. Go ahead, add that to your list for something we can talk about at some point. But Michelle Kesey is just fully in Lionheart as Michelle Kesey, as a member of the French Foreign Legion, definitely Moroccan, etc. And that is the way he is supposed to look normally. And so when you see that and then see this, and you're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And to the point where I was like, even when seeing this in the 90s, you're like, something is off about Tong Po's look. What is going on with his face? And that's why I was like, are there prosthetics?
Oh, yes.
Is it just, but it's, and now looking back at it, you're just like, oh no, this was such the wrong decision.
Right. Well, because so the thing is, and I think this is something with Albert Pyun that I'm wondering if, like, okay, the decision was made in the first movie to do this, and he felt like he had to do it because in part 4, it's a new actor who plays him. His name's Kamel Krifa. they do the same thing with him. They do the prosthetics on his face. That's also an Albert Pyun directed movie. Now, Albert Pyun is, he's born in Hawaii. He's of Asian descent. I think he's Hawaiian, Pacific Islander. I think that's.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm not sure.
So not like because Cary Tagawa, of course, Hawaiian.
Yes.
But of Japanese descent.
Right. I think Albert Pyun, I don't know for sure, so I shouldn't say, but I know he's from Hawaii. I know he was, that's where he grew up. And so he would make jokes. Like he makes a joke in this movie even about the fact that Cary Tagawa being of Japanese descent is playing a Thai person. And there's that joke with Prince Murdocco, right, where he says something along the lines of like,
Yes.
Right.
I wrote it down. Hold on.
Okay.
Because Cary Tagawa is killing this movie. He brought so much more to it than this movie deserves. He's flawless, as he always is. But he also feels like he's just doing Shang Tsung. But where did I write it down? Like, Peter Boyle throws some. Was it him or the other kid? No, it was Brian.
Vince Murdocco. Yeah.
Yeah. Where he's like, oh yeah, I don't know anything about Thailand. You guys make some good stereos and shit. And Cary Tagawa's flawless delivery of, you must be thinking of Japan, which, as we know, Cary Tagawa being fully American but of Japanese descent. Yeah, there's a lot of. I was gonna say casual racism. I think I wrote that down. It might not even be casual. It may just be racist.
Right. Well, because Pyun, that's one thing that Pyun has done in other movies where he makes these jokes about Asians from different countries playing, in the movie Brain Smasher or Love Story, he makes a joke about Japanese actors playing Chinese characters as well.
Yeah.
So he plays with that. He makes jokes about that fact that people from one country.
So he's aware that that's happening.
Exactly. And he makes the joke at the same time. He's got, the prosthetics for it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so, all right. Anyway, so that I wanted to do a deep dive into Michel Kesey. I find the relationship between him and Jean-Claude Van Damme very interesting because for some time in the 90s, and it might have been the cocaine, Jean-Claude's ego feels like his persona made it feel like this man could not have friends. He simply exists in his own ego. But he and Michel Kesey seem to have a genuine friendship that I believe continues. I think they're still friends.
Yes, I believe so. It's interesting because I think it's in like the late 2000s or the 2010s. I think, Van Damme kind of, I don't want to say he atones for that period, but he kind of understands how he was in that period, and he gets better because he ended up reconnecting with one of his wife that he was married to at that time that they split. Now they're married again. It is kind of a positive story in that sense that he's sort of, he understood who he was back then, and he has sort of gotten a little bit better from it. But I wonder if Michel Kesey was someone
he's doing some work on redemption, which good for him.
Yeah, I wonder if Michel Kesey, if it's one of those things where like friendship is different than like maybe being married to or family with someone, where it's like you're with them all the time and you're seeing them in this kind of different context. Whereas like friends, you can sometimes go months without talking to somebody, or it's like you can kind of stay friends sometimes and sort of let somebody do what they're doing on the other side. I wonder if maybe that's what happened there, where like maybe Kesey and Van Damme, maybe they weren't as close during that period.
That could be.
Yeah. And then when Van Damme was sort of better and he was not doing coke anymore and he kind of understood and, sort of recovering in that sense, Kesey was there available,
Yeah.
That could have been possible too.
I'm very curious. I mean, listen, at some point something's going to come out, but it'll be interesting. Lionheart is the one where you can see, and here's something I was like, checking the Wikipedia, what else can I learn about? His brother played the villain in Lionheart. So, there's a whole bunch of Keseys out there that Jean-Claude knows.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, it is kind of crazy. The other thing, too, is that Albert Pyun did not have a good experience working with Van Damme in Cyborg. In fact, he made a movie.
Oh, my God, I forgot all about that movie.
Yes. And I always talk about this movie he did called Deceit, where the Pyun did, where during Cyborg, Golan Globus and Van Damme didn't like where that movie was going, and so they forced Pyun to do reshoots. So he took the equipment
Oh,
for those
interesting.
reshoots, and he made his own movie at night using that equipment. So
Wow.
yes,
So, see, and because these movies, and we've talked about this very specific subgenre kind of had to use the same bunch of extras, same crew, same kind of cast rotating around throughout all of these movies. I imagine that if you piss off one person in this subgenre, then you're gonna struggle to make some of the others because everybody's got to be fairly tight in order to pull these off with no money in a short amount of time and get them pumped out to video.
yeah, and I think with Pyun, he had kind of had enough with the Canon guys. He had falling outs with them,
Hmm.
and I also don't know why, because he does the second movie in the series and he does the fourth movie, but he doesn't do part three, and I don't know why that is. It's a very different movie from these other ones, but for whatever reason he didn't direct part three. I don't know if it was a situation where they they didn't like aspects of how this one turned out, and so they went to do part. Because one of the things with part three doesn't have any kids dying in it. So
It
it's
doesn't.
right.
Yeah. Oh
So,
my God. Yes.
yeah,
That. Anyway, getting back to this movie. Yeah, the kid dies.
right, right. It's very much Pyun being dark. He goes in dark places with these kinds of things and I mean, part four, when they bring him back for part four, I think he had more creative control, and he makes that thing dark as hell.
Mm.
Yeah, and so I don't know. It's if they looked at this one and said, okay, you know what, let's go in a different direction for part three, and we won't use Pyun for that one.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then they were like, okay, well, we need someone to direct it. We know Pyun can get us in under budget. We don't know what we're going to get with Pyun because he always had his own idea about his movies, but they just kind of went with it.
It's it's interesting because he doesn't. Yeah, knowing that he definitely leaves his fingerprints on it, and it's such an interesting idea. And I'm wondering whose idea was like, yeah, let's make another kickboxer, but let's not have it really. It's not. I mean, I guess it's tied to the first one in that Cary Tagawa's character shows up to manipulate Peter Boyle in order to get their honor back,
Right.
because, but again, the honor that is lost, air quotes, happens between the movies.
Yeah.
Or I guess because Tong Po loses at the end of the first Kickboxer, we are led to believe that then between the movies, because he lost, Tong Po grabs a gun and murders Jean Claude's character. And then we're also told that Eric dies.
Right.
So Tong Po killed them both, but then also apparently the lady, the love interest, killed her
Yes.
too.
Right.
And so between movies, everybody from the first movie gets killed except for Tong Po, and now there's this conceit that Tong Po has done something horrible, and now they need to get the honor back, and so thusly, Peter Boyle's character is setting up. Feels like not WWE, but maybe a kickboxing federation that he wants to be legitimate. He's picking up fighters. He's creating a spectacle around it so it can gain notoriety and gain crowds. Comes to David Sloan, the brother that we were not introduced to in the previous movie, to say, well, I'd like you to fight in this because of your name. And look around you, you're struggling to keep your gym afloat because you're giving free lessons to all these kids, including a young Brian Austin Green.
Yes.
That I literally, my notes go, holy shit, Brian Austin Green.
Yes.
But then, David, immediately we're given a character study where he's like, no, I don't fight for money. I'm here to teach. I teach these kids, which again, Sasha Mitchell has this laid back, not surfer dude vibe, but very casual California vibe that doesn't feel all the lessons he's giving, which are very much like be calm and still like water, and just his delivery, you're like, I don't know if I buy it from this dude.
Well, because the best part is when he's doing the training piece, there's these like moments in between where they kind of take a break and have some dialogue where it's Sasha Mitchell and Dennis Chan, and there's that moment where they're walking on the beach and Sasha Mitchell's just kind of ambling along beside Dennis Chan,
Mm-hmm.
and the way he's moving is very much like if you were Patrick Duffy, who worked with him on Dallas, and they're like, we need a person to play your nephew on Step by Step, that he would be like, oh, Sasha Mitchell can pull it off. Yeah, he's got it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you see it in that moment there. And it is kind of hard to imagine him at the same time teaching kids. I mean, Brian Austin Green, I think he's only like 4 or 5 years older than Brian Austin in real life,
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think, or maybe it's a little bit more, because I think he was born in 67, and I think Brian Austin Green was born in like 73, 74, something like that. So maybe they're a little bit older, but it does feel weird. There's like somebody who's in his early 20s is like telling this kid who's like technically like, I don't know, 18. I guess he was supposed to be younger because he was coming out of juvie hall, but
Well, it's just so random because he's got. Well, I guess it's not random. It establishes what he's doing at the gym, right? That
mhm,
he's cares about kids, and so he's giving these free lessons to what seems to be a bunch of homeless kids
yeah,
because they're staying. Well, some of them are, some of them aren't.
yeah,
And the one, I guess her name is Joe, keeps bringing up these random kids to get lessons from him, and I don't know. It's just so it all serves to establish David's character, but it's all just more than we need. You could have established his character by the relationship with this other dude, Bryant.
yeah,
Like we could have seen it there. We could have heard more about it with his business partner and the gym. But no, we have to deal with a bunch of kids in which he goes through a whole routine of like the one kid, she hands him a blindfold and then yeah, go ahead, throw a punch, and then he dodges. But all right, great, fine. I don't know what that's establishing, and really, you're wasting my time, movie. I'm not interested in seeing a bunch of kids in this, because then later she drags in another kid who's clearly homeless and even younger, and then once I, so yes, the first part of the movie is establishing that David's running the gym, his brothers are dead, he's struggling to run the gym. Peter Boyle is launching a new company, wants him to fight, he won't fight. His primary student, Brian, who seems to be his age or slightly younger,
right, yeah,
is like, but they want me too, and I want to go, I want to fight for money. And David's like, no, but let's go over to your mom's house and have pot roast, which is horrible. There's a whole like joke series about how bad her cooking is. It's ridiculous. But so then this Brian kid goes to fight, which inevitably, if you've seen any of these movies, you know how it's going to go. Or Brian wants to go fight. David tells him no because you're selling out. You can't do that. But then Peter Boyle's character comes back and is like, no, 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 you need to fight because look at this gym. If you want to keep helping these kids, you need money. So David goes to fight, wins one fight against Vargas,
yes,
giant blonde man who I know I've seen in other stuff. So you're going to tell me where I've seen him before.
yes,
But
Matthias Hughes. Yes, you've probably seen him in any number of things. Yeah, he's just, if you need a big athletic blonde guy who's larger than life, you've got Matthias Hughes.
I wrote down, because I loved this, that the ref at this fight in which David, who has not fought professionally in 2 years, is going to fight Vargas, who is the current heavyweight champion.
Yeah,
David, who has not fought in 2 years,
right.
immediately gets a fight with the heavyweight champion. The ref comes in and says to them, all right, Vargas, none of that wrestling stuff. And Sloan, no Aikido. So knows both of them well enough to caution them about their particular intricacies in the ring, which I just found interesting. It again is kind of character development. David wins that fight. Vargas is humiliated. Peter Boyle's upset. His new business partner, Cary Tagawa, who just slides in quietly, is like, yes, this is how it's supposed to go. We need David Sloan involved. And then in the post-match interview, David is like, well, this is all nonsense. This is all crap. You can't buy any of this. The business that he's trying to, so basically badmouth Peter Boyle's company while fighting for the company. And then leaves. And then Brian's like, you told me I couldn't fight for them, but you just fought for them. And he's like, yeah, but I did it to get money for the gym, blah, blah, blah. I'm very pure of heart. Brian's like, well, the hell with this. I'm out. It's all so convoluted. But the point is, if I understand it correctly, and please correct me if I have this wrong, the plot is Cary Tagawa, mad at Tong Po for killing folks between the movies, needs to get honor back. But because Tong Po killed the folks who beat him, they can't get the honor in a rematch, has to get the honor through the next of kin, which is David, comes to America, but in order to get David back in the ring, because David's not fighting now, he's a teacher, his idea is, okay, it's fine. What we'll do is we'll get him involved. We'll have Peter. We will finance Peter Boyle setting up this new association. We will steal away one of David's friends. We will get David's friend Brian in the ring with Tong Po. We will have Brian be killed by Tong Po. David will then need to fight in order to get vengeance for his friend. 2 hours after his friend dies,
Right.
we will fight him in an empty gym, but we'll record it because that way Tong Po can beat this David guy who is the brother of the guy that he killed, thusly getting his honor back. Is that Cary Tagawa's plan in this movie?
That is exactly it. Yes. And what happens along the way is, for example, we get the pot roast scene, right? Where we establish that the mom is a really nice woman, even though she doesn't make a good pot roast, she's a nice woman, and she loves her son, and that Brian, as a son, he's younger, and she's protective of him. So that when we get that inevitable, oh, Tong Po is going to kill him in the ring, we get to think about the poor mom losing her son that way.
Yes, we have to watch his mother watch him get killed.
Right. It's exactly the way you describe it, except for Albert Pyun adds these touches along the way. The poor kid, this kid.
Oh my God, I skipped over the kid getting murdered. We talked about it, but in order, because David is still like, no, I'm not going to fight, and they're like, well, we got to get him to fight, and he's like, I'm not going to fight, and so their answer is send Vargas and some other thugs to burn down his gym, and in the process, there's a kid sleeping in the office. They beat up David, and they set the place on fire, and the kid dies. Thank God he dies off screen.
Right. But we do get to see him, flames in front of him, yelling, David, help me. He's like, what, 6 years old, maybe? 8 at the old, or like a short 8.
Oh my God. And yes, he's a very small child. He's younger than Brian Austin Green. A very small child who has a terrible attitude, to be fair.
Right.
The kid is awful.
Right.
Like, I'm not mourning the loss of this kid. He's terrible. But the fact is, and I forgot the other part. Like, what I said about Cary Tagawa's plan is already incredibly convoluted, but I forgot the reason that he has Peter Boyle have Vargas go burn the gym is because David is not going to train with David Chan, Kurt's teacher, but Cary Tagawa and forgive me, I don't know what Cary Tagawa's character's name in this movie is. It could be Shang Tsung. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Sangha.
I don't care. It doesn't matter. Yes. He's like, well, in order for Tong Po to get his honor back, he has to fight another Sloan, and that Sloan has to be trained by the same trainer who was training the other Sloans. And David is at first like, no, David Chan, I don't need your training. So in order to ensure that he will accept the training, they're like, well, burn down the gym, then he'll have no choice but to take the training. So they burn down the gym, kill the kid, sacrifice Vargas, and then David's like, oh, now I'm really sad and depressed, and I was living in the gym. I have nowhere. I'm going to rent this. There's a whole bit about how he rents a terrible hotel room, and then essentially gets out of the hospital, can't walk, because he was also shot in the leg in addition to being beaten up and having severe smoke inhalation damage, and witnessing the death of a kid. His plan seems to just be check into this hotel and sit and mope on the floor while a terrible... Did I write down the name of the song? What appeared to be the name of the song? No, did I not? A Man Alone. I did write it down. The song's in this. It opens on a song like My Brother's Eyes, in which we see... I tried Shazamming it. Shazam could not find it. I'm assuming the title is My Brother's Eyes over the opening credits where we pan around the gym and get the history. But the one that plays well, David checks in the hotel and sits to mope on the floor, is called A Man Alone.
Mm-hmm.
Because the songs also have to do exposition work. And then that other kid, Joe, comes back and says, we need you, and I brought David Chan here to teach you. And he finally is like, okay, great. And meanwhile, Cary Tagawa is over in the corner like, yes, excellent. He's taking his brother's teachers on. Oh, my God.
Yes. Now, I should talk another bit about white people, or this book, Michelle Casey's Moroccan, but people who aren't Asian playing Asians. Heather McComb, who plays the Joe, she's listed as Lisa here, but I think I remember Joe. It's like you never know with these names in these movies. But that character is played by Heather McComb. She played. I haven't seen this movie yet, but she played Jubilee in Generation X, the 1996. Like
what?
Yes. Yes.
And guessing it now, admittedly, she's very young in this movie, but she sure did look white.
Right. And she is. I looked her up. I think she's Scottish, of Scottish descent. And so,
So just to be clear, Jubilee in the comics is, I believe, half Japanese,
I think
half
so.
Chinese. I don't remember. Definitely half Asian. Not at all Scottish.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, so this kind of thing seems to be all and I mean, I obviously can't blame her. I don't know how old she would have been when she took that role, but she may not even know. But I haven't
Oh,
seen it
she was
yet.
born in 1977, so she's my
Ah,
age.
okay, so she
A
was.
year younger. Oh, she was on Party of Five.
Yes, she has a whole series of TV things between this.
She was married to James Vanderbeek and divorced him in 2010.
Right.
What?
Yes. Right.
Before he got married to the other lady and had how many kids?
Oh, a bunch.
6 or
Yeah.
7? 8?
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
No,
I
no, you're right.
totally
No,
got
because
sidetracked on that.
yeah, because I think his
Sorry.
sister, or her, not his sister, her sister, Heather McComb's sister, I think is like Jennifer McComb. I think she was on Dawson's Creek and she introduced her to
Oh,
Vanderbeek from after meeting him on Dawson's Creek. Yeah.
that's fascinating. Anyway, that was a side hole
Yes.
for
No,
you
but
can fall
but
into for a bit.
yes, but again, get with these characters. But you're right. Like she shows up. She's sort of like this. Like I think she even works corner in some of his fights and stuff.
She does.
Yeah.
Yes, I could not and the tiny kid
Right.
with the bad attitude who gets killed. I'm sorry, the murder victim
Right. Yes.
is also being his corner. Like those two kids are in his corner for
Yeah.
his fight where he fights Vargas.
Yeah.
And these fights are horrifically bloody, very damaging, traumatic. Why these tiny children are allowed to number one be in there, number two be in his corner?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Albert Pyun, I don't know what he was going for with some of these things, and I don't know too. See, again, the thing with Pyun is that you don't know if like somebody said, okay, we want to play up this kids aspect because we want younger people to rent this because I'm sure again like people our age in the early '90s were watching Kickboxer and renting that and going
Yeah.
to the video store and see, okay, Kickboxer 2 on the shelf, let's get that. If they thought that was what it was needed for us to rent it, and Pyun was like, I don't want kids in this movie. I want this brutal fight thing.
Yeah.
And so he's like, all right, if you want kids, this is what you're getting.
Then I'm killing them.
Right, exactly. I also love that the fight of all the sponsors for the fight, Amtrak was one of the sponsors. So it's just like,
Oh my God.
if you need to get to your brutal kickboxing match, take Amtrak. We'll get you there.
This movie is insane. It's of the movies in this genre, this one is not good, but man, is it a hell of a watch because of all the stuff.
Yes, it's a trip. So after they attack the warehouse, then we get to the montage piece where at first
Because he finally accepts the training.
right, which it's like it was one of those things where it's like we knew he was going to accept the training. Why did you put it off? Why not just do it? Just get us there. Save 10 minutes. But
They got to kill a kid, man.
right. Now we also get this thing of Dennis Chan's character, Chian. He loves L.A. And so he's getting like all the tacky souvenirs of LA that he can get.
His outfits throughout the movie.
Right.
Dennis Chan, sorry, not David Chan. Dennis Chan.
Yeah, it's easy to get it mixed up because we got David as David Sloan as the
yeah. God, yeah. His and then the. I'm not sure it's a running joke or it's a running theme of him starting stories about animals and then not remembering how they go.
Right.
I get tired of that too.
Right, exactly. Well, and then what I liked, now this is kind of where Pyun for me kind of makes his money in a bit, is that he works with a music coordinator, Tony Ripparetti, and then he works with a director of photography, George Moradian. I probably should have written his name down because I always thought I know it. Moradian. I should probably look it up because I recognize the name every time I see it, but I don't actually pay attention to what the name is. But you get these moments during the training montage where it's like you have the Moradian, that's his name, yeah, George Moradian, where the park in LA is exactly as you say, right? It's these goofy, like, I don't know, like it's supposed to be like offbeat. Dennis Chan is like, making David do push-ups with him putting his feet on him. They're doing Tai Chi, and like you said, like, there's people, there are homeless people in the park who suddenly are doing Tai Chi with Dennis Chan. They're all learning all this stuff. Well, at the same time, you get these like dark, like dimly lit rooms where where Vince Mordocco's character is training. He's getting shot up with steroids.
Yes, it felt it had that Rocky 4 vibe, a
Yes.
training sequence in which, well, Rocky's out here in the woods training with what he has access
Right.
to, and meanwhile Dolph Lundgren is in here getting steroided up in the best training facilities and running crazy laps around the thing. And
Yeah.
yeah, it had that vibe. It was trying to do that, but with an eighth of the budget and none of the charisma.
Right.
Um, yes, and so what we learn is that Brian is being given steroids and better training.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we there's a sense. I think one of the things with these movies is that there's this feeling of like they have to have some sort of verisimilitude, um, as if like they this fantasy world these movies take place in. We watching the movie, I guess because there are enough people that would, back then there was an IMDb, but there are enough people that would comment like, oh, that's not realistic. Like for example, when Vince Murdoch is fighting this other guy for a big fight, and essentially they pay the guy off to not to not fight, and they bring in Tong Po as a replacement.
Can I? And here's a question: that sequence, the, sometimes with these movies, it's hard to tell how much time passes in the training montage.
Yeah.
When the training begins, David has been shot in the leg, and so he's struggling to walk. And so Dennis Chan's job is to get him, number one, walking again, number two, fighting shape.
Yeah.
Over that course, Brian's career in the new Peter Boyle Association, UKA, kickboxing, whatever it is,
Yes.
seems to be on the rise. He seems to have multiple fights. He seems to be running up the ranks, and he's got either he's a champion or he's fighting a champion. But yes, I'm curious about what you think the timeline is. It seems like there's a lot more time that goes by because then also Brian, because yes, Shang Tsung shows up and is like, oh Brian, yeah, I'm gonna judge you for taking steroids, which is where we get the racist joke about the stereos.
Yeah.
And then says, "Oh, shouldn't your former teacher come see you at this fight?" Because again, his whole deal is got to get Sloan there so that Tong Po can fight Sloan eventually. Hey, and Brian's like, "No, he's not going to want to come. So we had a falling out. He's not going to want to come see me." And again, Cary Tagawa manipulates the entire setup to be like, "Oh, but in Thailand, we really value the loyalty between teacher and student. You really should go ask him to come. It's going to matter a whole lot to have him there to watch you fight." And so Brian falls for it because Brian is dumb and
Right.
goes in his new fancy car, new fancy outfit. Because again, we're established like the Sloan Gym seems to be in kind of a slum. There's tons of homeless. We get a lot of shots of them. Yes, doing the Tai Chi, but they're also just pictured all over the gym.
Yep.
And so Brian pulls up in the brand new car, the new fit, and the sunglasses, and he pulls up on David, who is again, struggling. "Why don't you come to my fight?" And David's like, "I'm not coming to your fight. Didn't you just fight 2 months ago? How much time has passed?"
Right. Right. Exactly. No, it's not very clear, and I think the other problem is that the training that Albert Pyun is doing with Dennis Chan seems to not be taking that much time. Right. It seems like
No, he
right.
does some leg lifts, some running on the beach, and then a couple of scenes of Tai Chi. It looks like 2 days have passed.
Right, exactly. And so yeah, like you said, it's really hard to get a sense of how time passes here because it's like, yeah, he's like 2 months ago. When did we have 2 months? Yeah,
Right.
right. Yeah, it's really hard to get that sense, and it's one of the things about the movie that's not done well because I think part of it is because it's the way it was shot, probably over a short period of time. It's like
Sure.
they're shooting every scene the same day, so it's like every
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I don't
Because the implication is that Brian's entire personality has changed. He's got all this money now. He's doing all this stuff, and that they haven't seen each other in such a long time. But to us, it feels like, well, Brian was just walking away angrily like 2 days ago, and now he's back and look at these new clothes and this car, and he's been winning all these fights. Yeah, they could have done better at that, but I guess you do what you can with the money you got.
right, exactly. Now the other thing is, I don't remember Cary Tagawa telling Brian or Vince Murdoch to bring his mother. Right? He says
I
bring
don't remember that either. No, he
no.
says make sure David comes. You need your
Right,
teacher there. But when Brian goes to visit David, he's like, "Yeah, please come to my fight. It would mean a lot to me, and bring my mom."
right, right. And I'm wondering if Tagawa was like, no, I don't think maybe like there was a little bit of a modicum of like, I don't think his mother's going to want to see the beating that we're going to be giving him.
I wonder, but I mean, this dude is already willing to sacrifice a whole bunch of people to get his air quotes honor back,
Mhm.
which exclusively means getting David Sloan in a ring with Tong Po.
Yeah.
So he's probably willing to sacrifice a whole bunch of stuff. Doesn't care about Brian's mom.
Yeah, exactly. Now, when the fight starts, Dennis Chan sees the switch and sees it as Tong Po and says, "Oh, David, you got to get your friend out of there because he's not gonna. It's not gonna go well for him."
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. They buy off uh, the other fighter who Brian was supposed to fight,
yeah.
and bring in Tong Po instead, which is a shock to Peter Boyle.
Yes. Yeah. Peter Boyle's like, we can't do this. And yeah, Tagawa's like, well, if you don't do it, you're going to lose your funding. So then he
Pulling
tells
all
the,
your funding. Yeah,
right. And the announcer's like, wait, I can't do this. And then
not legal.
the boxing commission is like, no, we can't do this. And Tagawa's like, I don't care. Like one of the boxing commission guys goes over and Vincent Klin, who's like his like hatchet man, just like sends him away. Like he punches him, doesn't he? Or like pushes him away or something.
Shows them, yeah.
Yeah.
There's so I. Everyone says no, you can't do this, and they do it instead. And they're like, yeah, here's Tong Po, and collectively the audience of the movie is supposed to be like, oh, we remember him from the first movie,
Right.
whereas the audience in the fight arena is like, who, what, why?
What is going on? And then, so what happens is Dennis Chan sends David down to the ring to get Murdako out.
Because he immediately recognizes it. He, like the audience of the movie, is like, oh no,
Yeah.
Tong Po, he murdered all of the other Sloans.
Right. This isn't going to go well. Now, what happens is as David's making his way down, it seems like he's taking forever to get there. Right. It's like the slow-mo running. And then the security's blocking him. And I thought what was going to happen was he wasn't going to make it in time and Tong Po was going to deliver the killing blow. That's not what happened. He gets there, tells Murdako, you got to get out of here. You got to quit this fight. And he's like, no, I can take him.
It's steroids, man.
Yes.
Steroids were such a plot device in these movies sometimes.
Yes.
He's like, yeah, I can handle it. I got this. Like, dude, half of your face is still in the middle of the ring while you're sitting in the corner. Yes. Maybe you're overmatched here. He's like, no, I got this. I got it.
Right.
Tell my mom to watch closely.
Right, exactly. And the thing was, I was like, well, why did you make such a big deal about him getting to the ring if he was going to make it in time and Murdako was just going to, like he could have just gotten to the ring. It could have just been a cut, right? He could have just been like, Dennis Chan saying to David, to Sasha Mitchell, you got to get down there. Cut. Next scene, he's there at the ring saying, you got to get out of there. Like, why did we go through that whole process of him running down there if he was going to make it?
Some of the choices made in editing are bizarre.
Right.
Not enough time in the training. Yeah. Too much time in the ring.
Right. The getting to the ring, especially. Now the
but then again, if we talk about like not enough time in the so okay, Brian thinks he can handle it, doesn't handle it. Tong Po is the rules mean nothing to Tong Po, right. Which we've seen in other movies. Where he's throwing refs, tossing dudes, not listening to the bell, throwing illegal elbows and knees, which are not allowed. Right. The ref clearly says they're not allowed, but then he tosses the ref. It's nonsense. He goes completely crazy in the ring, which for the entire plot driver to be, they need to get their honor back. This fighter never fights with honor. What are you talking about? Right. Pick another fighter, guys.
Right. That's a great point too. Now the referee is Jean LaBelle, who's like kind of famed martial artist who I think he passed away recently. One of his biggest claim to fame is that he was on the movie set and Steven Seagal said something about how like no guy can get him in a rear naked choke. Right, he knows how to get up a rear naked choke. So Jean LaBelle put him in a rear naked choke, and I guess his way of getting out was to just like punch the person in the groin. And Jean LaBelle just sort of, right. And I guess Jean LaBelle just kind of withstood it and caused him to pass out. Now, the story goes from there is that once Seagal passed out that he shit himself.
Wow.
Yes. Now, I don't know how true it's. Again, these are these stories that go around. Obviously, Seagal completely denies it. But
oh, sure it does.
Yeah. But he's kind of a legend in this world. So having him as the referee would have been a real nod, I think, to people who are in the that were martial arts fans in the early 90s. Like I wouldn't have known Jean LaBelle then, but I know him now. Then the person who did the fight choreography was Benny the Jet Urquidez, who's also kind of known for those.
Yes.
And again, I wouldn't have known him then, but I know him now. The funny thing,
that's a name that sounds familiar. Yep.
Exactly. The funny thing about this, and I don't know what your thoughts were, it didn't seem like Benny the Jet was doing. It didn't seem like a lot of his choreography was coming through. It just seemed like a lot of this person punches you 3 times, the other person punches 3
the
times.
fight choreography. Yes, the fight choreography was not good, and the triple takes.
Right.
Because someone would launch a kick, and then we see that 3 times in a row, and that happened over and over again. And I don't know if it was a way to, in some of these movies, the big final kick, you get the kick like Jean-Claude's big split kicks. You see the kick, and then you'll see it again from a different angle and again from a different angle. And as the audience, you're meant to go like, ooh, look at the skill shown in this kick. That happens throughout the whole fight in this, like the triple play.
Yeah.
We don't need that. It's wasting our time, and none of these hits, none of the fights are interesting enough to justify that. It's very strange. The fight choreography is not great in these.
No,
in this one.
Well, because it's like they don't take it. It's like there aren't like these moments where you'd see like in a real martial arts movie where it's like 2 people are standing at a wide angle and they do 3 or 4 moves.
Yep.
Right. There's like this boom, boom, boom. It's more like in this, it's just like somebody punches and it's a close up of their face getting hit with a punch. And it's like, I guess Benny the Jet,
which is crazy because both the people in the ring are skilled enough to do it. So let us see it. Listen. There's so many life lessons to be learned from Wesley Snipes, but one of them I will never forget. He has said in an interview, and you can see it in the beginning of Blade 2, the shoot a fight scene from a distance. So especially if your people in the fight scene are capable of doing it so that the audience can see the thing. Yeah. Stop putting the camera in the fight. We don't need that. We're not trying to be in the fight. We want to see the skill displayed. Yeah. And so I just, anytime there's a fight scene in one of these movies, please pull the camera back. If these folks are skilled enough to be doing it, let me watch them do it. Stop putting me in there.
Right. And that's where I think Benny the Jet would have earned his money, because he would have said, okay, Sasha Mitchell, you do this, this, and this, and then Tong Po, you maybe block parry or something like that. Then you come back with this. There's
too many close-ups of feet hitting face. I don't need that.
Exactly.
But I think based on what you said about Albert Pyun, the close-ups of feet hitting face allow you to be bloodier.
Yes.
Because then he can shoot it in slow-mo and like show the blood spurting off. I don't need that.
No, I agree completely. Yeah. So now, okay. So we find out that that Brian dies. His mom gets to witness it, which is beautiful.
Yes. And Peter Boyle is devastated because he's now going to be kicked out of his association's being disbanded. He's going to face legal ramifications. Yeah. And as Cary Tagawa comes in the gloat, he goes, "You ruined me." And he hands him an envelope and he's like, "Yeah, well, yes, fine. Here, take this and shut up." And Peter Boyle's like, "Oh, this is a lot of money." And the delivery of this line, again, I wrote it down. Cary Tagawa, what a friggin' treasure. That man was never given the flowers he deserved, and on a wide, people who knew him loved him, his performances, but God, what a phenomenal actor. The delivery of, yes, some things money can't buy. Lucky for me, you're not one of those things. Yes. Just what a devastating line, and delivered so just with this thin air of superiority that is not even like he's not even trying to come off as egotistical. It's just stated as a matter of fact. It's so good.
Yeah. It's almost like this movie didn't deserve him, or even you could say Peter Boyle, because Peter Boyle,
yes.
It's like
the two of them could have been in a different movie.
Yes, yeah, it's so great. So we get that moment, anyway. And then like you said, right? Tagawa goes.
We have to watch. No, there's a whole sequence where we have to, because they get Brian to the hospital, right. Don't they?
Oh, I think there's a hospital. Yes, we get to see him die.
Where we have to watch Brian's mother witness Brian die.
Yes,
again. Yeah. Come on now.
Right, exactly. It's like Albert Pyun does not want to let us off easy with any of this stuff.
No.
We get to know the mom. We know how she cares about her son. I mean, generally mothers care about their sons anyway, but in this case, or their children in general, it's not inconceivable. But they establish it here very well. And then she sees him die. And then Tagawa shows up and he's like, "Yeah, if you want the fight, 2 hours."
2 hours.
Yes.
In the ring. No audience, plus old school Muay Thai rules.
Yeah.
Which, as we know, to be brilliantly spoofed in the Hot Shots Part 2.
Yes.
The dipping the gloves in the whatever and then into the glass.
Yes. Yeah. Now before that, what I love, I will say my favorite scene in the movie is the scene of them going to like the dingy burger joint to discuss, David and
Oh yeah.
Dennis Chad. I was like, this is like the best place in the movie. Like I loved the whole atmosphere there.
The
They don't
set,
eat
yeah.
anything, right? They're not eating. They're just sitting there talking. He's telling another story about, the elephant and the rhinoceros.
Yes.
Yeah. But we see some bikers leave.
Unstoppable force and immovable object,
Right.
basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he's like, well, what if the unstoppable force, or the unstoppable force, what if they actually win? What if he actually survives? And and we also get we also find out too that Dennis Chan was manipulated to be a part of this. That he was
Yeah.
manipulated to train David to win this fight, and he comes clean
Well,
about
of course. Listen, if there's one thing we learn in this movie, it's that Cary Tagawa has plans on top of his
that.
plans.
Yes, exactly. It's the kind of thing that, like, in a Marvel movie, it would be like, Kevin Feige and his various writers and everything, like in a room with whiteboards and post-its, like talking about like doing this over
And
like
red
6
string
movies.
from Liz. It's ridiculous.
Right. It's like, yeah, it's a
It's
6
just
movie
ridiculous.
thing that's carried out in 90 minutes here in this. Yeah, you could have gotten 3 movies out of this plot. I don't know what those 3 movies would have been.
Honestly, yeah. If you're looking to carry on the Kickboxer name and have sequels, why not? I mean,
Yeah.
it's an irrelevant question, because I think the next one, the plot is totally disconnected to any of it. Doesn't matter. Anyway, yes. So David has a fight in 2 hours after his friend dies.
Yeah. Now, the best part is that he shows up and he totally recognized what these 2 metal pails are in the middle of the ring.
Oh, yeah.
It's still
Immediately
covered in
goes to the buckets. I'm like, sir, how did you know that's what? I guess maybe his brothers told him. I don't know.
Now, the thing with the glass, the funny thing about the glass is that obviously, the glass is there supposed to create another level of danger, but we don't really see a lot of people getting cut in the face when they get punched with the glass. But the funny thing is that Pyun wanted to make sure that the Foley was there. So every time they would punch, you would hear like glass, like rattling around.
Yeah. It's an interesting choice.
Yes, yes. And so
this movie is full of interesting choices.
Now you mentioned at the very beginning of the movie, Brian Austin Green is
Tiny Brian Austin Green.
Right. He's 2 years removed from starting on 90210.
Which shocking,
yes,
but yeah.
Yes. David impresses him with his skills by blindfolding himself and then making, so we've established at the beginning of the movie that, David can fight without seeing. And
he's a great fighter without his eyes.
Right. And so as he's fighting, his vision gets blurry and he's having trouble seeing Tong Po.
Probably from, blocking all those punches with his face.
Right. Yes, exactly. And so he decides, you know what? I'm going to fight blind. And that's how he defeats Tong Po. Tong Po starts swinging at him and he starts hitting him with kicks in the chest and everything.
David starts landing enough punches that he almost dislodges the fake Asian eye prosthetics.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I'm not sure are there in wide shots.
Yes.
It's so mystifying. Someone should do a deep dive on that, but I don't have.
No, I think you're right, because again, they would take time to apply. So I think there are moments where either A, Michel Kesey isn't using them because it's probably dangerous for him to fight in them. I know, like Scott Adkins talked about when he did John Wick 4 with that big fat suit that he wore, that it would seem like a great idea at the time, but then when he actually did his scenes with Keanu Reeves, that he was sweating and the suit would just get filled and it would get heavy and it was just cumbersome. So
gross.
Yes.
Also, why? Didn't need it, but whatever.
Exactly. So I bet you there are moments where there's like, don't bother putting I'll film it in a way that you can't see it. And then when you look at it in post, you're like, we can see it, but all right, we'll go.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Right. It's like when you have a character in the movie that's wearing high heels and they're running, and you see in the shot that they're wearing flats for that scene, and then the next, it's like kind of that, I guess we didn't cut the bottom of their feet off enough in the shot. So
well, because when you leave them in, then we all get the Bryce Dallas Howard in Jurassic Park, like, what is happening?
Right, exactly.
That T-Rex would have eaten her 4 times by now.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Now, I guess what the last thing we get here is so Tong Po is defeated, and then Mr. Honor shows up in the ring with a gun, Cary Tagawa, and he's like, you know what?
Once your honor is gone, apparently, who cares? You dive deeper into that hole.
That's right. All bets are off. Now, Vincent Klin comes from behind. So Vincent Klin, of course, for people who aren't familiar with him, he's War Child, unironically named in Point Break, which, those are those little touches that Catherine Bigelow does in that movie that I just love, like, because she wants to make sure that Patrick Swayze has to say the line to to War Child, back off, War Child. Seriously. Like, she made sure that Patrick Swayze's character had to say that unironically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing. But that's Vincent Clint. So he's
Yes.
and
he's one of those guys, you've seen him everywhere. Like, you
yes.
recognize, you're like, oh yeah, that dude, but maybe can't immediately pull up where you've seen him.
Yeah, exactly. And he's there like so what happens is when
his job in this movie is exposition, because he's the one in the beginning who's like, David, all of these bills are overdue and you have no money coming in. What about taking a fight? And David's like, well, I don't fight anymore. But David, you used to be really good, and if you would take these fights, then you'd be able, and your brothers died, and if you don't, like, his job is all the heavy lifting.
Right. And that's that actor, John Deal, you probably remember.
John Deal, yes.
Yes, from Miami Vice. It was always like Sonny and Crockett would be doing like the really cool undercover work, and then John Deal, I think he played Zito, and his partner was Switek. Switek and Zito would do like the sweaty, like in the van, like trying to get like stolen, VCRs or something like that. Like that would be like their kind of secondary story in the movie, in the shows.
But Vincent Klim, the other one that you mentioned, we skipped over because it almost doesn't matter. But there's a whole sequence where his character is introduced and he's brought in as like, and Cary Tagawa has a whole scene with him of like, here's what I'm going to need you to do.
Right, yes.
There's a whole scene of that.
Yes. And it turns out like he's
follow David Sloan, protect David Sloan, ensure that my plan will come to fruition. And so we just get shots of him lurking in the background during training, during the whole middle section of the movie. He's lurking.
Yeah. Yeah. And what happens is that we think he's this like real specialized tough guy that you can't take out. But while
he gets
John Deal at gunpoint, and Deal is able to disarm him.
Yes, easily.
And then, at that point, Sloan has no reason to not, jump kick the gun away from Cary Tagawa and
jump kick the gun away. Which also then Cary Tagawa gets his ass beat by David Sloan. I'm like, we all know he's more skilled than this.
Yeah.
He would at least be able to throw a punch or two. Come on now.
Yeah. They should have. Usually a movie like that, they would try something like that. But I wonder if it's just like, well, we've established he's such a good, But would we have not believed it? Like, would we have been like, okay, we're watching this movie. We're at the, the 88-minute mark or whatever, 87-minute mark at this point in the film. And suddenly Cary Tagawa's got martial arts skills and he's fighting back against David. We've looked at it and said,
well, that's fair. Yes, he's supposed to be the businessman in this.
But I think we would have believed it, though. I think we would have said,
I would have.
Right. We've come with this movie through all these other twists and turns. It wouldn't have been like so beyond the pale that Cary Tagawa's character could fight, Yeah, I don't think we would, so it would have been nice if he threw a few punches in or got a few kicks in. Yeah. And then we end the movie where we started, where actually we have Dennis Chan learning how to drive, which
so unnecessary. Why?
Right. It's just like an excuse to destroy tin garbage cans, I guess, right? It's like,
I guess so.
Right? And then David Sloan, who we don't know how he has any money, right? Because they don't say like, oh,
he
suddenly
shouldn't
he's
have
rich.
any money.
Right.
Maybe that one fight that he did for Peter Boyle got him a huge paycheck.
Right. Or I mean, was he able to sue Peter Boyle and get the money that Peter Boyle got from Cary Tagawa? Maybe I don't know.
I don't know.
But even that would have taken time. But either way, suddenly he's got money. But the best part is all the kids show up. There's a new kid who wants to fight, and David Sloan does the same blindfold trick, and then Dennis Chan's like, we're going to get ice cream because the ice cream truck drives by. He's like, everybody, ice cream's on me, except David Sloan's the one pulling out his wallet looking to pay.
There's a whole, during which I believe was required, finishing shot for these movies, like the crane pullback shot.
Yes.
And in that shot, we see David checking his wallet, looking at his wallet, putting the wallet away. Like, what? Why? Why was that the choice in this shot as we pull away? It should have started on him, with his hands on his hip, looking around, like shaking his head, these kids and their ice cream. And then the crane shot pulls back. But no, we get a whole bit of him doing a little bit of nonsense with his wallet.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I don't. It was almost like Albert Pyun was told, you got to have kids in this movie somehow, and he's like, fine. I'll do it. And this is how I'm going to do it. And it's like, okay, we just went through like roughly 90 minutes of brutality.
Yes.
It's like, let's end on the ice cream, the ice cream truck with some levity, with Dennis Chan learning how to drive and everything.
It's such a weird choice.
Yeah, exactly. But that's Kickboxer too.
This movie is all weird choices.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, as we're finishing up on this movie, anything else that you wanted to mention about this one?
I It's not my favorite. How about that?
Yeah.
Let's just end it there. Listen, they tried,
Mhm.
and I will give them credit for the trying. But honestly, this movie would have also been fine had it not been called Kickboxer 2.
Yeah.
If you simply called it, like, I don't know, given him a different character name, you don't have to use Tong Po. You can use some other famed type. You could hire an actual person from Thailand. I believe Tony Jaa might have been too young at this time, but surely there are others.
Yeah.
Wait, is Tony Jaa from Thailand? Forgive me if I'm wrong about that.
I believe so.
But like he didn't really come up until a little bit later. But my goodness, surely there's someone else. If it had to be, whatever. But they had the name Kickboxer. They're gonna make a movie, so they did what they could. Sasha Mitchell, is he a capable leading man for this type of movie? I mean, physically, yes, he was skilled as a fighter. That goes. I mean, that's true whether or not you buy it when you watch him.
Yeah. Right.
But he doesn't seem to have the same. I don't know that he works as a lead for these movies, which is ironic because he does several more.
Exactly. It's a fascinating thing because on the blood sports side, they had Daniel Bernhardt play.
Yes, easily buyable as like that dude. Yes, we get it.
Right, and in a way, it also works because they're both. He's Swiss, and so obviously as Americans, yes, there's definitely a difference between Belgium and Switzerland, but at least there's sort of like this European
The
model.
accents there.
Yeah, the accents there. There's kind of this European sensibility that I think Van Damme's characters always had, and he couldn't shake. And they would have to come up with these ideas that he was Cajun. Which, yeah, if you're Cajun from New Orleans, you're not European. You're not European French.
You're not at all Belgian.
Right, exactly. But yeah, the Sasha Mitchell ones are fascinating, and I think the most fascinating element is this thing where it's like, okay, Albert Pyun's going to direct it, and he likes to make these dark, brutal movies, but we want to market it to kids who that are go to the video store in the early '90s. So we need kids in the movie too. That juxtaposition is so fascinating.
It's just so weird.
It is. But to your point, I think the Cary Tagawa performance, and also Peter Boyle. I think the fact that you could get those two in this movie is just such a coup.
Yes. Yeah. And like you said, are they maybe too good for this movie? Maybe. Do they add something to it? Yes.
Right. Yeah. But I think this movie is. I think the one thing about this movie, I think the brutality of it. The thing with the brutality of it is that it does make it a little bit harder. Like if you have friends who have never really watched these kinds of movies before, and you're looking for a first one to show them. I think it's like when we talked about Bridge of Dragons, or we talked about Black Dynamite for sure. Which Black Dynamite's not this kind of movie. The Black Dynamite's sincerely
something
good,
else, yeah.
Right? But the Bridge of Dragons is definitely kind of in this vein of a movie where it's low budget, kind of goofy, but at least that movie doesn't have the brutality that this movie has. If you got friends who've never seen something like this and they're just like, wait a second, they killed the kid. Oh wait, the mom is crying over the dead guy who's completely battered, and they're putting the sheet over him with the flat line. Yeah, that makes it a little bit harder, I think. If it's definitely one that people who have seen more of these kind of movies and they enjoy them, and they haven't seen this one yet, it could be a fun time.
Yeah, this is not the movie I would recommend for someone who's like, oh, maybe I want to watch some movies from that very specific subgenre. What do you recommend? This is not one I would recommend.
Yeah. No, I think, Blood Fist 1 and 2 probably are good ones. Like you said, the Shoot Fighter, I think, is a really interesting one, especially with the people that are in Shoot Fighter. And then Why Am I Drawing a Best of the Best? Was one that you mentioned, right? I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know why I was drawing a blank on that. I could not think of this.
And Best of the Best is another one that does a lot of these tropes, but better, and in the same, we got folks in here who may be too good for the movie. James Earl Jones is in Best of the Best, guys, in case you forgot. Yes. Everybody go back and watch Best of the Best.
Right. No, that's a great point as well. Yeah. And I think that's, again, an issue with Pyun when he makes these movies is he wants to go through the motions to some extent, but then he wants to punch it up in places. And when he punches it up in places, it almost betrays the tonality of the going through the motions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing. I mean, Albert Pyun as a director, I think I wouldn't put this in like my top 10 of his movies. There's, I really like Kickboxer 4 because he's more unleashed on that one, but I know a lot of people watch that one. They're just like, what is going on with this movie?
I don't remember. I think it's fine. They all kind of blur together. I do remember there's one where David has to go undercover as some sort of agent somewhere else, and I think it has one of the Diabo sisters, either Miriam or Olivia.
Yes, I think that's
And there's
4.
okay, and there's so David's undercover, and there is because again, a lot of these. One of the other things that is a requirement, air quotes, for these movies is like a PTS or sex scene. So
Yes.
like a pointless tit shot or some sex. In that movie, there's a sex scene that happens entirely while David is hiding like in a closet, and so the sex scene happens. He's there, but not. He's like hiding. And I remember thinking like, what the hell? And doing at the time, I remember this. They wanted a sex scene in the movie. He couldn't do the sex scene because his wife at the time was very controlling, and she demanded that he not be in any scene that involved a romantic interest with another woman or something like that. And I remember learning that at the time, whether or not that's still true. And then when you learn a little bit about Sasha Mitchell and the situation that he had, like he was, am I right in saying arrested for domestic abuse and something else?
Yes. Yeah, I
There
think.
was a fight he got into, and he maintained he was in the altercation with his wife in order to protect his kids from her, as she was the one. Now, listen, I don't know what it sounds like a bad situation no one should have been in. But I do remember reading that when that movie came out, Kickboxer 4, and then to learn what he said about listen, it sounds like a bad situation. I thank goodness none of them are together anymore.
Yeah. No, because they got married young. I mean,
Yes.
if you see in this movie, I mean, he was born in, I think, 67. So he's like 24 in this movie, and he's wearing his wedding
But
ring.
feels 15.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
I think that's the other problem with him as a leading man is that, yeah, I get that he's mid-20s and in theory could be feasibly running a gym and have been a professional fighter in the past, but he doesn't feel old enough or mature enough for any of that.
No. And I think that's the things. I think he got married young, and I think, probably there was, turmoil in their relationship, but then also probably turmoil in his career because he wasn't, blowing up the way he wanted to. I mean, you get on a show like Step by Step. I mean, that's network TV. That's supposed to be the thing that, and to be fair, when you look at that cast, I mean, nobody really. I mean, obviously Patrick Duffy and Suzanne Summers were established, so you don't worry about them so much. But nobody else in that cast really moved on to do any. I mean, to be fair, you could say that Sasha Mitchell, doing a few movies after that might have done the best out of any of them. I mean, I think some of them left, just didn't want to do anything. But like, Stacey Keenan did a movie about why it was bad to get an abortion. So that's the route she went down, right? She went full Christian stuff. I think some of the other ones just didn't make any movies anymore. Like they stopped working in the business. So, and I guess, I don't know what you expect from a show. I mean, it must have felt like at the time, like, I mean, he did like 100+ episodes, but I forget too that like when you do TV like that and you're like a supporting character, you don't get the kind of contract that like Patrick Duffy and Suzanne Summers was getting. So he probably wasn't making as much as we'd think he would have been for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like he definitely fell off at what a mess.
Yeah. It's kind of, and I think he's tried.
His vibe fit better as like the loose uncle, cousin, nephew, whatever he was on Step by Step. His vibe fit there. His vibe doesn't really fit in this movie.
No. And one of the things too, thinking about his career kind of coming back, he was going to do some more stuff with Pyun if Pyun hadn't gotten sick. And then of course, them passing away. So I think he probably had some eggs in those baskets that now, maybe he's hoping that something will be done with some of that work that he filmed. But yeah, it's one of those things, I guess, with Hollywood, these, and he also was trying to be a model as well. I think he was still, it's possible, like the modeling gigs, it's possible if there was an issue with the wife being controlling, that maybe she also wouldn't let him do certain modeling gigs, and maybe there was resentment. Who knows what could happen?
Who knows? Yeah, it could have been anything.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jeanette, I guess as we're wrapping up here, anything that you wanted to plug?
Oh, no. I I don't have anything current. Yeah, I mean, I'm working. I keep saying this, but I am genuinely trying to get more up to date on my site, the jwardadventures.blogspot.com. Trying. The reality is I haven't been watching as many movies as I should be lately. I feel uh I went to the theater to see Crime 101 and was reminded like, "Oh yeah, man, I love the theater experience. I need to be going to movies
Yeah.
more. I just have not had the time. This life has been lifing.
Yeah.
It happens. So that's my hope is that we're starting to roll into where we get the bigger movies coming more frequently. And I am a fan of streaming stuff. I've watched a bunch of stuff on streaming. I was planning on watching a bunch of stuff before the Oscars tonight, or whenever you're listening to this, when the Oscars were, but I just haven't gotten there. There's been other stuff happening.
No, I'm the same way. I had this thing where I was going to make sure I was going to the movie theater at least once a month. It was my New Year's resolution. It's already March.
That seems very achievable.
I know, and it wasn't. It's already March.
Oh.
And yes, January, February, I didn't make it to the movie theater. So, yeah.
I think I've pulled off once a month.
Yeah.
But I used to be a once a week person. But honestly, because I checked it this weekend to be like, oh, what should I go see? I'm like, oh, you know what? There's nothing. I'll watch something on streaming. And,
Yeah.
and blessedly, the time that we're in now, you can certainly be like, yeah, I'll make my own popcorn. I'll watch something streaming. That's fine.
Yeah.
We certainly have options now. But yeah, there's other things that we can go and see too. But yeah, once we get to the summer movie season, there'll be stuff.
And this is going to be a loaded year with movies because you've got a couple Marvel movies, a couple DC. Mortal Kombat 2 got pushed to this time.
Cannot wait for Mortal Kombat 2. It looks like a beautiful mess.
Yes,
question mark?
Right, and we're scheduled, I think, to discuss that one on the Lambcast, right? Because we were supposed to talk about it in the fall, and it didn't happen. So there's a Halloween episode that we did at that time.
Yes, which was fun.
Yes.
And we'll talk about it there, but just as a tease after that, oh my goodness, Carl Urban, when they're like, hey, we're making Carl Urban Johnny Cage, and I was like, what? How dare you? And then I was like, you know what? More Carl Urban is always going to work for me.
Yes.
I fell in love with that man when he was playing Cupid and Julius Caesar on Xena. Because why bother hiring an extra actor to play one of the two major characters on this show? We'll just use the same dude. He can be Caesar and Cupid. It'll be fine. Why are we calling him Cupid on a show that deals mostly with Greek mythology, and we're not calling him Eros? We're calling him Cupid instead. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that show, Xena in particular, I think I loved the decisions they made with a lot of those kinds of things. It shouldn't have worked, like you said, in a lot of cases, but it did.
It shouldn't have worked, and yet did on almost every level.
Yeah. What and think of it as a spinoff of Hercules. I mean, we always love Michael Hurst on Hercules. It's just
excellent. Michael Hurst, great on Hercules.
Such a treasure. Yeah, and to think that you could take. Bring Lucy Lawless over for Xena and be like, oh, actually, we're going to do even better. And the show did it. Lasted longer, I think, than Hercules.
Again, she played 2 to 3 characters on Hercules. Right. But Xena, absolutely a better show. Plus, oh my God, Bruce Campbell.
Yes.
Ted Raimi. The side characters on Xena. What's her name who played Callisto?
Yes. Oh, she was great.
Anyway, listen, this is a whole side conversation we can have.
Yes.
That at some point, talking about direct-to-video stuff, the action-pack TV shows that used to be on, like, when UPN was new, and it was Marker with Richard Grieco.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which you can catch on Amazon Prime now.
Oh, really? That was on Prime? No way. What was it? There's a Knight Rider, wasn't there, as well?
I think there was a Knight Rider, Cleopatra 2525.
Oh, yes, with that great theme song. Yes.
Oh, my God. All right, listen.
No, that's great. Yeah, exactly. We'll do that. Thank you again for coming on. This was a really fun conversation.
Oh, my God, yes. So much fun to be here, man. Thank you for having me. We talk about the craziest stuff.
We do, absolutely. I know tons of tangents for sure, which is always fun. I always love doing that as well. Definitely. And thank you for coming on. We'll be back soon. Bye, everyone.